Welcome back, everyone, to Einstein's Eyes, where we dive into the intersection of health, science, and sometimes unexpected connections that shape our lives. And I think you'll like today's episode. So I'm Dr. Carl Rosen, oculoplastics, neuroophthalmology, in Anchorage, Alaska, and ophthalmic associate. I'm with my co-host, friend, partner, and former co-resident, Jon Ditkoff. Jon?
Hi, y'all. I'm coming from northern New Jersey. I've been here for about 30 years practicing general ophthalmology, specializing in cornea, laser vision correction. I met Carl over 30 years ago. I know it's amazing we look so young, but we've been doing this for a long time. And over 30 years ago, we met at Einstein residency, where we did ophthalmology. And we stayed in touch, even though Carl's in Anchorage and I'm in northern New Jersey. I'm very excited for tonight's talk, though, because it's someone I know who's a local hero in our town. So you can take it away, Carl.
Right. So fantastic. We have a special guest today. Yeah. So one of New Jersey's top chefs and restaurateurs, Jamie Knott. Jamie is the mastermind behind some of the most acclaimed restaurants in New Jersey, including Saddle River Inn, Saddle River Cafe, Cellar 335, and Madam's. They're known for their innovative cuisine, impeccable execution, and an approach to food that blends artistry with precision. Now, I know I went overboard here with the adverbs and the verbs and all that, but listen, it's great. And what many don't realize is that running a high-end restaurant is a lot like running a healthcare or an ophthalmology practice. It requires intense teamwork, good communication, long hours, deep commitment to excellence. So today we're going to explore Jamie's journey to the top of the culinary world and the surprising parallels between the kitchen, running a restaurant, and an ophthalmology or a medical clinic. Jamie, just thanks for being here again, and tell us about your journey.
It's my pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting me on, Carl and Jon. I really appreciate it. I think all the adjectives, adverbs, and expletives are completely necessary if you ask me. But that's quite the introduction. Are you in PR these days, or you're gonna stick with
Listen,
eyes?
If my partners kick me out of the practice, I'll think about it.
You definitely have a job in public relations, my friend.
Carl did help me when he was married and I was single in Manhattan. He was good PR for me.
I was the wingman.
PR is one way to put it, Jon. So anyway, thank you guys very much for having me on. I kind of found my love for food at a young age. My grandmother was always cooking for myself and my cousins, and there was a lot of camaraderie there, and I remember a lot of laughs in the kitchen and just that feeling of family and tradition. So that's kind of where it started for me. And then my first job was in Nutley at the Franklin Steakhouse, which is kind of funny because the owner called me yesterday, the original owner. They since moved it and then it closed, but it was an iconic, legendary restaurant in Nutley doing, close to $5 million in the 90s, which is,
wow.
That's it in a small town, 3.5 square mile town. So he called me yesterday and said, I want to open a restaurant with you, and I laughed to myself because it's 30 years later, right? And things have kind of changed and our lives have gone in such a different direction. But that feeling that I got, the energy, the camaraderie, the fast pace, the teamwork, it was electrifying. And I was hooked from day one. I knew I wasn't an office guy. I could barely sit still. And I was a busboy, a food runner, a bar back. And then on Sundays, Jon was never there, the owner, so I would make salads. Because he's like, you're too young. You can't be in the kitchen. You're going to get hurt. So I had that job for about 3 years. And then I went to work at another local restaurant in Nutley called Scuttlebutts. It was like a kind of pub food, but like super elevated pub food. Michael Fitzsimmons and his family owned it, and he worked at, acclaimed restaurants in the city. And then he brought his talents to Nutley. So I learned a ton there. And after high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my brother went to Emerson up in Boston. So I said, let me go have fun for 2 years while while there's still time. And I ended up working at a Spanish restaurant called Sophia's. It was a tapas lounge. And I got exposed to different flavors, different ingredients, different styles of food. And it was an amazing atmosphere. They had a 12-piece band every night. It was more of like a dance hall, I guess you would call it,
Wow.
but
Wow.
just super elevated and a beautiful place and delicious food. And from there, after when my brother graduated, I came back home and my father said, if you want to get taken seriously in this industry, you should go to school for it. You obviously are talented and you love it. So I took his advice and I went to New York Restaurant School. I graduated second in my class. They took they took some merits away because I had the worst attendance in school history. um, and I worked at the same time. I actually I turned my job into an externship site, and it was a restaurant called Cafe Centro, and it was in the MetLife building, right above Grand Central Station. So I would run from class every day and be 15 minutes late for work and always behind. And it was a three-star New York Times restaurant, one Michelin star. So it was a serious place, and I was 19 years old. Didn't know my ass from my elbow. And I worked amongst, these guys who had been cooking for 20, 25 years. It was actually a really nice group of gentlemen. They were all Thai. So they were super respectful and super clean and just, really saved my life every day because I
Wow.
was just constantly behind. And it was a busy place. We did 350 covers every day.
Wow. So,
And
so,
when I started working there, I was in charge of the amuse station, which is, everybody gets one bite when they sit down, basically. And I had to make something new every day from what was in the walk in. So, from a creativity perspective, it was amazing. However, from a timing perspective, it was awful because I had between 45 minutes and an hour, and I had to bring it to chef 30 minutes before service so he could taste it and then okay it or deny it. Um, but that kind of pressure pot is really what the restaurant business is about. And if you can thrive in those situations and scenarios, you're ahead of 99% of the crowd.
right, right.
So
So James, so let's move off of that. So the pressure of the kitchen, just like the pressure of the operating room, some people can deal with it and some people can't. And during training, you kind of figure it out. And it's a weed out. But so tell me how you deal with the pressure, or how did you and you decide that you could handle it?
honestly, when I was younger, I remember not being able to go to the bathroom for 12 hours because I was so far behind. And there was days when I left there and I would cry on the bus ride home because I got my ass kicked. I'm like, this is impossible. There's no way I could be successful at this. But I stayed true to myself and I kept working hard and I showed up every day and my eyes and ears were open. And once you do something for 10,000 hours, you become a master at it, right? So all I did was I just spent all my time improving and getting better. So, that's really what it was about. And I changed my mindset also. I remember going from a point of, being scared during like right before service started to being excited, like give me the ball, let me take the last shot kind of thing. And that shift in mindset is really what changed my whole life, I would say, because now when it's at its busiest point is where I excel. The world kind of slows down for me. It's hard to explain unless you've been in something like that where you're sitting in the most pressurized situation possible, but everything slows down and goes quiet. And that's what a busy kitchen is like to me. It's like we're making music, and that's all I hear is the pots, the pans, the 3 minutes, the yes chef, and
Yeah.
I'm just laser focused. We had a beautiful truffle caviar and wine dinner last night, and I just realized how much I love it because I'm not on the day to day as much anymore. My job is kind of like a talent acquisition manager and to write menus at this point and just try and build the best team and train them as well as I can. But when I get back in the kitchen, I just realize who I am and why I'm there, and it's palpable. So
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I definitely think when you're talking, it reminds me a lot of and then, by the way, there are some excellent physicians that can't do this. And they end up seeing, one patient an hour. And they're wonderful doctors, but to really you need the balance. I mean, I see a lot of people per hour, but I want every single person to know that I cared about them. I want them to have the best outcome. I thought about them, and there's an art to that, and that's kind of what you bring out. I mean, I never really thought of it that way, but it is very similar to the kitchen.
The word chef. So in medical school, we have attending or professor. So to be called chef, what do you have to do?
I think it's more how much time have you spent on the court? You know, how much time have you spent in the kitchen, and do you work your way up, and do you provide leadership, and are you guiding these people? My job now is almost to create better human beings. I mean, to teach people how to cook is one thing. It's a technical skill that anybody can learn. Not everybody has the God-given talent, but I want to be surrounded by people who I enjoy working with now. You know, my temperament is just so different from what it was in my early 20s. And that was all just from how I handled the situation, right? Now I look forward to the situation. Now I know there's going to be issues, and the issue doesn't matter. I'm solutions only, you know, and I've become that way in every walk of life. People throw shit at me all day long, pardon the expression, but you know, it's my job to turn it into gold and hand it back to them. I mean, that's basically what it is. And a chef these days, you know, you're a priest, you're a counselor, you're a therapist, you know, you're a bank. I mean, yeah, you know, there's guys who call me, "Hey chef, can you co-sign my car lease?" Like, you know, it's just there. I get every question under the sun, you know.
So when did you decide to go your own direction? I mean, like, how old were you, and what was your first?
So after Cafe Centro, I worked my way around that company a bit, and then I moved over to an Italian restaurant called Salute, and I was there for 2 years, and then I went to China Grill, which was on 53rd and 6th. So I got hired there as the executive sous chef, and then I got promoted to the executive chef. I was 26 at the time, and you know, I learned a lot about the corporate world, but I also learned how to read a P&L. You know,
Yeah.
they were very structured, and they had 22 restaurants at the time. So we had financial meetings every week. And that's one part of being a chef that not a lot of chefs do. You know, they never get that groundwork, that knowledge, that cornerstone of how important finances are. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, you could be the best cook in the world, but if you don't have any money to pay
Yeah,
the bills, it doesn't matter, right? I mean,
yeah. So Jamie, that's so interesting because John and I basically run a small business. You know, we run an
Same
ophthalmology
idea.
practice. I have a multi-specialty practice, but if you can't read a balance sheet, if you don't know what an income statement is or a profit and loss statement, if you don't understand your capital expenditures, you
You're
know,
in trouble.
what comes in, what comes out, you may not succeed. Even though you're running the best practice in the world, people love you, you may not succeed.
well, I mean,
Um,
Jamie's
you hear
point,
these statistics,
you could be
right?
the greatest surgeon, but if you can't run a business, well, you can work for somebody, but you're
Sure.
not going to be recognized as the greatest surgeon. I mean, unless you really can.
What do they say, guys, that this business has a 5% success rate?
Oh
I don't
yeah.
think it's because a lot of people don't do a great job. I think it's because they're simply underfunded and spending their money in the wrong places. I mean, you know, I see it firsthand. I have 4 places. Not all of them do what Saddle River Inn does, right? You know, that place is one in a million. I know that. It's a little treasure chest. It's a neighborhood restaurant. It just happens to be in the nicest neighborhood, you know, in a wealthy state. I mean, it's that simple, right? So, you know, you learn a lot. When people say location, what they mean is household income. That's what that's really what it is, because in this business, if you're not busy on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're only surviving. That's
Right.
all you're doing. If you're waiting for the weekend, you're never going to make it. So, you know, you gotta put butts in seats every day. And
Although
what was
Carl doesn't know this, but I have friends that live an hour away that go there. It's their favorite restaurant. And they make a reservation the second you can get it online. And it's still tough on a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night. So I'll just add
wow,
that.
wow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
most of the emails I deal with are, you know, people telling me how displeased they are with the fact that they can't get in, you know, during the week. It can't be that busy. It can't be that impossible. And my
That's,
my answer is always very simple. We want you here as often as you want to be here. There's no reason I would turn down any guest ever.
yeah.
You know how expensive life is, and children, and forget about if you want to live above. and go on vacation and have nice things. I mean, you can't work hard enough and you can't make enough money in today's age. So,
100%, 100%.
That's
when
pretty
when
good. If that's your biggest complaint, that's awesome. That's really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, but no, I absolutely hear you. So, Jamie, I did want to wrap up though with nutrition and wellness in fine dining. I mean, you have 4 places. That's really impressive. I hear your journey. That's impressive. Very much like John and I, our journeys. But when you do you think about that? Do you think not only about flavor and quality of food, but do you
oh,
think about,
sure.
yeah? So
I
just
think
speak to that.
Okay, I will. I think intrinsically we set ourselves apart because we use amazing ingredients, right? I buy the best that I possibly can from the most trusted purveyors who use the best standards of practice. I mean, so if you start there and you have great product and you treat it with respect, absolutely it's nutritious. I've never heard anybody who doesn't feel good or feels too heavy or John, what do you think after you leave dinner? I mean, there are options.
I mean,
You
I
might get the
definitely,
meat sweats,
I
but
love your foie gras, but I don't do that very often. But
that's
yeah, I
that's
mean,
you know that's maybe
right. And
a
even
once a quarter thing.
the steak
You
is
know,
highest quality. I mean, yeah, I agree with everything he just said.
yeah, I think when you start with a beautiful product, you end with something that's special and delicious, and that's what we try and do. Just pay a little respect and homage to something, And it's funny because I did a menu of all things I've never cooked before yesterday, but I just see my style as I get older. I take more things out than I put in. When I was a kid, I would look in the fridge and put 16 ingredients in a pot, and think I was a genius. Now, if I use more than 4 things, 5 things on the plate, I'm like, all right, it's too much. It needs one less item. So
Yeah.
That's wild. That's
I have
wild.
one quick question. Have you ever had an eye injury as a chef? Have you witnessed any?
I actually got burned one time on my face, and I
Okay.
got some oil in my eye, and I was fuzzy for probably 2 3 days.
Yeah.
So I was cooking filet mignons in what's called a tilt skillet in a hotel. So it was for a large banquet, and water came out of the ventilation system and hit the fat. And I was turning the steaks, and it just splashed me right in the face. So yeah, it's not a good feeling. And I don't know if it was the hot fat congealed over my over my eye maybe, and just made
Probably,
me
probably
blurry
just
for.
probably knocked out your cornea for a while, but it healed, which is you're fortunate. Like it didn't leave
Thank
us.
thank God. Yeah, I was a young man. We can do a lot of stuff when we're younger, right? We
Do
get
you guys tell the chefs to wear eye protection? Is that recommended?
um
It's not that common, so it's people don't
I
think.
don't think it's that common. I don't know that I've ever seen it in a
Yeah,
professional kitchen,
yeah, good.
you know? Um Unless maybe a specific station,
Well, I
like
think
if you're
there's probably
working
a
a
lot of
wok fry
amateur.
station.
There's a lot of amateur chefs that do a lot of damage to their eyes. Probably they might teach you better techniques, honestly, like to not be in your food and like because we've seen a lot of it, but I've never seen a professional chef. I've
I
seen
think it's
amateurs. I've
it's
seen
it's
people like
also, practice makes perfect, right? And you learn as you go along and you look to improve every day. I mean, I look to get better every day. Even if I've made a dish 60 times in a row, I want the 61st to be better than the 60 previous. It's just the way I think about food and life in general.
yeah. I mean, it's
Um,
the same thing as being a professional athlete. I mean,
Yeah.
all of that. I'm
yeah,
sure you guys have done the same surgery 7,000 times, but you're like, I'm pretty damn good at this now, and I do it a little faster, and
yeah.
I learned this small, change or detail.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah. And now it's about small movements. It's about materials. It's about little changes that make a difference. And you get a feel for the tissue. You get a feel for the angle. Yeah, absolutely. But Jamie, this has been an incredible discussion. We've talked about the parallels between medicine and the kitchen, impact of food on health, the high stakes nature of both professions. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, and maybe a call to action for all our viewers. If you're in New Jersey, if you live in New Jersey, you have to check out Jamie's restaurant, Saddle River Inn. I got to get this right. Saddle River Cafe, Cellar 335, and Madams, and you
Yes,
won't regret it. So
you got it
you all,
right, Carl.
Beautiful, beautiful. So when I come into New York, I'm gonna visit my dad and my mom. John's gonna host me and take me out to dinner, right, John?
Oh, yeah.
I
Absolutely.
insist. It'd be a pleasure to meet
Beautiful.
you. And I want to do a
Beautiful.
call to action for your patients as well. As all you guys have never done surgery on me, but I'm sure you're at the top of your game.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. But as always, guys, don't forget, please like, subscribe, and if you have a comment, that's great. If you have any thoughts, we'd like to see more conversations about food. Jamie, we're going to invite you back. And again, thanks for watching Einstein's Eyes. And we'll see you folks on the next time. Good to see you, John. Jamie, fantastic.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I'll come back on anytime.
I appreciate it.